All right, parents, I have had enough. I've had enough of the bald jokes, so I'm going to grow my hair back out. No, I'm not. I can't. I'm just going to wear a hat every day. But I have had enough of the terribly sad stories that we hear every day revolving around antibiotics. Every day in practice, we take a case history of either an older child who had too many rounds of antibiotics as an infant or a young child, or we begin care with another infant whose nervous system, gut, and immune system development are an absolute mess due to antibiotics. For about 2 decades now, research has been super clear that pediatricians continue to overuse antibiotics for common things like ear and respiratory infections in kids. And the short-term side effects are no good, but the long-term side effects are even no gooder, or an even bigger problem. This video is for moms and dads who do not want to give their child another round of antibiotics, or have not yet and are looking for other natural options and solutions that they can use for ear and respiratory infections other than antibiotics and other medications. This video will really break down the long-term side effects of antibiotics, including development of antibiotic resistance, chronic health conditions, and autoimmune disorders, and also the disruption of the microbiome. We're going to start with one of my favorite stories of chiropractic to tell. He was one of my very first patients, Kale. Kale is one of those stories that will forever hold a place in my heart because I'd hate to think about what Kale's health or life would look like today without chiropractic, or if his mom and dad hadn't taken one more attempt at a solution before surgery. Kale came to see us at about 18 months old, and at this point in his life, he had been on nearly a dozen rounds of antibiotics for ear infections, basically every other month since birth. We were mom's last-ditch effort for some answers before tubes got put in. She even mentioned at their consult that her ENT, who was supposedly a good friend of hers, told her to quit being such a worrier and just let him slice and dice already to remedy the situation. Sorry, bro, no slicing and dicing for my kids, especially when there's other options for hope, answers, and healing that don't involve anesthesia or scalpels. When we first saw Kale, it was screaming nonstop, and expectedly so. I mean, he'd been through the ringer in only a year and a half. Life was not fun for him. But from the moment he got out of the car, you could hear him screaming in the parking lot, and then down in the waiting room, and then down the hall, in the adjusting room. I'd check him, I'd adjust him, then back down the hall, parking lot, and home. You could hear him kicking and screaming this whole time. This happened for about 4 days. I finally told mom and dad one day, I'll explain to you everything I'm doing. I'll explain to you about how chiropractic works in his immune system once we get Kale to turn the volume down a little bit, but right now it's just, I'm not going to be able to do this while he's kicking and screaming, and they understood. But then one Friday evening, he came to get adjusted, and he was rather cool, calm, collected, especially for Kale standards. And as they left, Kale started to fall asleep. Keep in mind, this is about 5 p.m. on a Friday. That next Monday, mom reported that Kale slept straight through the night for the first time in his life, 18 months, all the way until about 10 a.m. the next morning, nearly 17 hours. And from that day on, Kale was a different kid. Happy, loving, smiling nonstop, jumping, playing, hugging, conversing, you name it, Kale was about it. No more antibiotics, no chance of slicing and dicing, just happy, healthy little boy awesomeness. And like I said, I'd hate to see what Kale's life was like today if mom and dad hadn't taken such a great opportunity to give us a call and see what chiropractic could do. So Kale's mom, Ann, an absolute rock star of a mom, by the way, she was a fighter. And the first thing that we look to do is empower and educate our parents to be strong advocates for their children's health, because you do have options, especially when it comes to understanding that antibiotics are not always necessary or effective for treating certain infections, such as viral illnesses or just mild ear infections. I love / don't love when we hear in the office that mom had to bring up to the pediatricians that maybe this infection's viral, right? Shouldn't that be the pediatrician's job? Overuse of inappropriate antibiotics can lead to the development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which can be difficult or impossible to treat in the future. It just spirals out of control. But the main things antibiotics disrupt that really wreck kids' long-term health are weakening and suppression of the immune system, disruption of the microbiome, disruption of the neurotransmitters and the gut-brain connection, and then the development of antibiotic resistance. These 4 things are nuts, and they ruin child's health. The real root problem with the use of antibiotics for things such as ear and respiratory infections is they do not address the root cause, which is really just poor plumbing and bad drainage and an imbalance of the neuroimmune system. The original factors that trigger that poor drainage and that neuroimmune function in kids generally are birth interventions and trauma, especially things like forceps, vacuums, and C-sections. We know this well because both of my kids had nearly all of that. There is a lot of research between C-sections and respiratory and autoimmune challenges later in life for children, due to not only the disruption of the microbiome, but also upper cervical subluxation and the physical tension that then disrupts the function of the vagus nerve and autonomic nervous system regulation, which helps the immune function and inflammation. And that is chiropractic's bread and butter. As neurologically focused pediatric chiropractors, our foremost priority is to get to the root cause of common ear and respiratory infections and serve as the first stop and drug-free natural solution for families so that they do not have to resort to antibiotics. Be sure to head to our website to check out our full article on the side effects of antibiotics, as well as other articles, PDF guides that go through all sorts of natural remedies and options you can use instead of antibiotics, surgery, what have you. Any questions, comments, drop them below, DM us if you have to. Share this with other moms and dads that you know need this information, and then come and get your kids scanned themselves, right? Let's take a look. Let's see where the tension, where the stress is, where the subluxation is, and let's see how we can help. Thanks.